we estimate that there will be some 400 advanced polling locations in Indigenous communities compared to 125 at the last election.
Tonight, Liberal leader Mark Carney has announced we are now just 5 weeks away from the next federal election.
Our workers are looking to be paid the same as they're paid in the civil service.
Hundreds of Métis Child and Family Services workers are set to go on strike on Tuesday following a series of recent layoffs.
And they're good for cultural activities like going to potlatch or going to Friday night bingo.
And big and bougie Indigenous earrings take the spotlight at a new exhibit in the Yukon. Tansei, good evening. I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Canadian voters will go to the polls on Monday, April 28th in the 45th general election. The election was called on Sunday after Governor General Mary Simon dissolved the House of Commons at the request of Prime Minister Mark Carney. It will run 37 days or roughly 5 weeks, the shortest campaign period allowed under federal law. Polls show both the Liberals and Conservatives locked in a dead heat, followed by the NDP, Bloc Québécois, and Greens trailing far behind. Elections Canada also held a press conference in Ottawa on Monday morning, where Chief Electoral Officer Stephanie Perreault said the organization has been working hard to better engage Indigenous voters.
I'm pleased to say that this early engagement will result in better services for Indigenous electors, especially when it comes to advanced voting services. As we speak, we estimate that there will be some 400 advanced polling locations in Indigenous communities compared to 125 at the last election, so more than 3 times as many.
Former Liberal Cabinet Minister Randy Boissonnault said he will not be running in the upcoming election. He made the announcement on Friday evening in a posting on X, formerly known as Twitter. In a letter posted on X, Boissonnault wrote that he wanted to embark on a new adventure and acknowledged the past year had been difficult on him and his family. Last year, he had to resign from cabinet over questions about his claims to having an Indigenous identity and his past business dealings. Last December, he told a House of Commons committee that he was not Indigenous. Boissonnault represented the riding of Edmonton Centre from 2015 to 2019 and again from 2021 to 2025. Mi'kmaq Liberal Jaime Baptiste is running in a new federal riding in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, this federal election. Baptiste was elected to represent Sydney Victoria in 2019 and was re-elected in 2021. But Baptiste's previous riding was redistributed in 2023. Sydney Glace Bay's boundaries became smaller and now just includes one First Nation community, which is member to, while omitting Baptiste's home community of Eskasoni. Baptiste will now be running in the new riding called Cape Breton Canso Antigonish, which includes 4 of the 5 First Nations located in Cape Breton. They are Eskasoni, Botladek, Wagmatcook, and Wegogama, and one in mainland Nova Scotia, Buckingeg. With a new prime minister and a federal election on the way, families and advocates still have so many questions surrounding the state of Jordan's principle to support First Nations children. Over the weekend, Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu announced the extension of that support to continue through 2026. First reported by the Canadian press, Minister Hajdu did not provide specific amounts, but she says the federal government has provided $8.8 billion into the principle since it was first established in 2016. In February, the federal government said it would bar funding approvals under Jordan's principle for non-urgent matters like home renovations and sporting events. The First Nations Family Caring Society has since accused the feds for failing to provide evidence of misuse, evading its legal obligations, and creating a backlog of cases. The Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations and now Minister of Justice and Attorney General Gary Anandasangre says the federal government will pay $1.23 billion in cows and plows benefits to several Prairie First Nations in this fiscal year. Those 8 First Nations are Kakawishtahaw, Kisakus, Muskowhegan, and Wusky-Sipik First Nations in Treaty 4 territory, and Little Pine, Magwa-Sagayagan, Montana, and Peter Ballantine Cree Nation in Treaty 6. A total of 46 claims valued at $6.25 billion have been settled under the federal government's expedited resolution strategy to cover cows and plows benefits that Canada failed to provide under Treaties 4, 5, 6, and 10. In a statement, Kakawishtahaw Chief Evan Tapatat said while the fight for treaty rights will continue, he called the settlement a step forward, adding, "The settlement is about correcting the agricultural benefits injustice promised to our ancestors. Now we can use these funds to improve the lives of our youth, adult warriors, and elders, ensuring the future generations will also benefit. Our responsibility is to plant financial seeds today that will grow into lasting support for years to come." We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to www.aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X, and you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime on YouTube. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Earlier this year, a quadruple homicide shocked a Saskatchewan First Nation. Last week, another death occurred on the Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation. The File Hills Police responded to a medical emergency on Friday in Carry the Kettle. After being transported to hospital, 31-year-old Drew Jack died. Police determined his death was suspicious. Following an investigation by the Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes Unit and the Regina Police Service, a teenager from Regina was arrested and charged with 1 count of manslaughter. Under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, the teen's identity cannot be disclosed. The teen made their first court appearance Monday morning at Regina Provincial Court, with a follow-up appearance scheduled for March 27th. So far, there is no indication whether the quadruple homicide and this death are connected. We have to take a short break, but when we return, our Kim Sullivan will take us to an Indigenous science fair to see what great ideas students have.
As Indigenous nations, we've always been scientists. We've always been researchers.
Thank you for staying with us. Hundreds of workers at two Métis Child and Family Services agencies in Manitoba are set to go on strike tomorrow if a deal isn't reached. APTN's Sarah Bettens has more.
On March 11th, the Manitoba Government and General Employees Union, or MGEU, issued a strike notice for more than 300 workers at the Métis Child, Family and Community Services Agency and Michif Child and Family Services. And if an agreement isn't reached by Tuesday morning, they'll begin striking. The two agencies fall under the Métis Child and Family Services Authority, a nonprofit organization governed by the Manitoba Métis Federation. MGEU President Kyle Ross says workers have been without a contract since January 2023 and are asking for wage parity.
Our workers are looking to be paid the same as they're paid in the civil service, same as the folks who work directly for government who do the same exact work. We're looking for parity because we know if they create a two-tier system, unfortunately those workers will go where they can be paid more.
On March 6th, 63 workers were laid off from the two agencies. In a news release published on March 7th, the MMF cited funding shortfalls as the reasoning. While the province provided $2.4 million in funding to the two agencies, the MMF said $8.75 million is needed to prevent layoffs and increase wages. However, Ross believes the layoffs were a tactic to persuade workers to accept a lower deal.
We've been at the bargaining table with them for a long time, and it's only once we had a strike mandate that the layoffs came to fruition or came from the employer, so we really feel it's a bargaining tactic.
The MMF also pointed to a jurisdictional dispute between the provincial and federal governments on who is responsible for funding Métis CFS agencies. APTN reached out to the Manitoba Families Minister, Nahani Fontaine, and Patty Haiju, Canada's Minister of Indigenous Services, for comment. A spokesperson from the province confirmed that the Manitoba government has provided Métis CFS with $56.9 million for 2025 to 2026 for staffing operations. If an agreement isn't reached by tomorrow morning's deadline, workers could be on the picket line.
We're actively working to try to avoid a strike, but there is essential services in place, so there will be workers to provide some of this service. It'll be at a lower level. It's not a place where we want to be, and we're actively working to try to resolve this, but it's really we're talking, but we need the employer to come with us, right?
While not available for an interview, Mona Boers, the minister responsible for Métis Child and Family Services, issued a statement on Monday. It said the two agencies presented an offer to the union over the weekend, which was denied. It also said the province's funding letter only includes salary increases and does not include $1,800 retention bonuses, salary step increases, or shelter staff funding. It concludes by stating that until the jurisdictional dispute between federal and provincial governments on Métis CFS funding is resolved, quote, the funding situation of the Red River Métis CFS system will remain the same, unquote. Sarah Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Now to southern U.S., where a new safety alert bill has been endorsed by the New Mexico State Legislature. Dubbed the Turquoise Alert System, the Rapid Response Initiative would send cell phone alerts to citizens in New Mexico when evidence of imminent danger is found in relation to the disappearance of a Native American person. There are 23 federally recognized tribes within the state of New Mexico, and similar to Canada, large numbers of Native Americans are reported missing or murdered every year. The Turquoise Alert received unanimous consent in the state Senate, and Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham supports the proposal. The bill needs to go through the House floor before final approval. The 2025 Quebec Indigenous Science Fair took place last week in Nunavut, Quebec. Its theme this year is Science in Action with Indigenous People. Indigenous students from across Quebec traveled to the Cree community of Wapmagshtu and their neighboring Inuit community of Kuujjuarapik to showcase their passion for science. Kim Sullivan shares the details.
I'm very happy to be here to the opening of the Quebec Indigenous Science Fair 2025.
Nearly 80 Indigenous participants from across Quebec presented their science projects in front of judges, visitors, and residents of their host communities. The Quebec Indigenous Science Fair is organized by the Quebec Aboriginal Science and Engineering Association Ketzivik Ilisar Nilirinik, and the Cree School Board. Its chairperson, Sarah Pashagumskam, emphasizes the importance of providing such unique opportunities for students to shine through science.
Well, I think it's really important for our children to know that as Indigenous people, as Indigenous nations, we've always been scientists. We've always been researchers. And, the development of our technology, our medicines, our traditional knowledge, all of this is our traditional science.
Among the topics presented were water as source of life, burning of the Kulak, volcanoes, the Cree's Gambit, and exoplanets. Furthermore, students were able to engage with Indigenous knowledge and recognize it as science.
One of the things that this science fair allows them to do is to bring traditional knowledge, to bring our own Indigenous sciences together with Western concepts of science, and to really explore how those can be melded together as they work to solve problems in their own community and for their own future, and really contribute with their own knowledge base to what we're all trying to create together.
A lasting contribution to their community of Mistissini is exactly what third-year high school students Errol Mianscombe Jr. and Mark Petawebino want to see come out of their project.
Our elders believed our water was the cleanest of all places.
And we wanted to prove it using science. So we began testing the waters that we have acquired from the store and off the land and from the tap.
Surprisingly, our creek water was the cleanest of all of them.
And we would propose a bylaw by implementing that everyone with a boat would have to change their motor every few years or maintain it. Then we would encourage more use of traditional water traveling like canoeing.
The names of the winners were announced during a closing ceremony.
From Mistissini, l'École Voyageur Memorial High School, Nihibi, the source of life.
Mianscombe and Petawebino were amongst them. They will be representing the Aboriginal Quebec Autochtone region at the Canada-wide Science Fair in Fredericton at the end of May. Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Montreal.
We have to take one more break, but when we return, an exhibit in the Yukon is showcasing big and bougie Indigenous earrings. Sarah Connors speaks with the creator behind it.
Each pair of earrings, as you can see, is completely different from each other. It's totally unique.
Time now for a photo of the day. Earl the cat recently interrupted family game night by hopping up on the table and making himself more comfortable. Cute picture, thanks for that, Earl. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, send us your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east, St. John's 8, Charlottetown 6. Happy Valley, Goose Bay -7, Nujuak -19. Saint-Jovite 3, Quebec City 4. Windsor 9, London 4. Sudbury -2, Wawa -3. Churchill -9, Thompson 2. 4 in Winnipeg, Gimli 4. Swift Current 11, North Battleford 8. 6 in La Ronge, Stony Rapids 2. 9 in Fort McMurray and Son, Peace River 11. Lethbridge 17, Calgary 14. 15 in Victoria, Penticton 12. Fort Nelson 3, Smithers 7. Mayo 0, Dawson -1. -10 in Norman Wells, Wrigley -8. -18 in Fort McPherson, Inuvik -18. -17 in Chesterfield, Whale Cove -15. Iqaluit -18, Arctic Bay -25. Big, glitzy earrings are a fashion staple for Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, and the work put into making them can't be overstated. Now, a new art exhibit in the Yukon is putting some of the territory's most glamorous and bougiest earrings on display. APTN's Sarah Connors has that story.
They're big, they're beaded, and best of all, they're bougie. These earrings are part of a new art exhibit at the Kwanlin Cultural Center in Whitehorse. It celebrates the Yukon's biggest, bougiest beaded earrings.
Each pair of earrings, as you can see, is completely different from each other. It's totally unique. But
the exhibit is Kwanlin citizen Tegan Valavan's first curated show. A beader herself, Valavan wanted to honor Indigenous artists in the territory, especially women who have a flair for creating bedazzled earrings. While not every pair is beaded, all of them are bougie.
Like when I think of my big bougie beaded earrings, it's like, you know, my big, elegant, probably maybe a little crazy, over the top earrings that I'm like wearing at something, and I just feel so good.
Valavan received over 50 submissions for the exhibit, but had the tough job of narrowing it down to 21 pairs of earrings.
It has beadwork, it has tufting. If you look.
She says the pieces here are a testament to the Yukon's incredible craftsmanship, like these strawberry field earrings by Nacho Nayakdan beader Florence Moses.
She delivered, like these are insane.
It also includes earrings for every occasion, like these clip-ons made by Kwanlin elder Shirley Smith.
And they're good for cultural activities like going to potlatch or going to Friday night bingo.
Of course, behind every pair of earrings, there's a story, some of which might make you laugh. Most of all, Valavan hopes the exhibit will help inform visitors about cultural appropriation, something she says is an issue in the territory.
I was also hoping that there would be an educational element in this to get people thinking about like, okay, so it's okay for me to buy and wear these earrings, but who am I buying these earrings from? And like, what is their story?
The exhibit runs until May 20th and has earrings for everyone, as long as you like them big, bougie, and beaded. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thank you, Sarah. An Indigenous podcast series recently launched its new season featuring some of the Manitoulin Island's foremost knowledge keepers. CTV's Ian Campbell has more.
It's a celebration like no other, a podcast that honors the cultural identity many cherish on Wikwemkong. The podcast 365 Jingles launched its new season, all in Anishinaabe.
They are creating 365 short story monologues, plays, to share with the world of this beautiful language in Wikwemkong, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi language. We're very unique. There's not another language like this in the world.
The artistic endeavor is a tribute to the culture they hold so dear on Manitoulin. Made possible by a grant from the Canada Council for the Arts, the goal is not only to share their language, but to make it more accessible to those wishing to learn it.
Prior to this, we did do another podcast, which is the 49er Project, which is 49 short stories already on Spotify. So this is going to be added to that.
I kind of approached the elders of our community of Wikwemkong on Manitoulin Island to share these stories that they could perform under 5 minutes each.
While 5 minutes may not sound like a lot, 365 podcasts certainly is. It's a tall order, and they've lined up some of the community's most notable knowledge keepers to help them accomplish their task. With dozens of contributors and family names like Corbier, Shawanda, Pelche, and Manitowabi to name a few, it's clear this is a big effort.
It's a creative way for a listener to hear our story and to hear the preservation of our language through story. So an expression of a childhood memory that may include, seeing the serpent in the water on a fishing trip with your grandfather.
According to King, while Wikwemkong has 8,000 band members, there's only about 500 who are fluent. 365 jingles is available now. Ian Campbell, CTV News, Sudbury.
And that's your evening newscast for this Monday, March 24th. We're back with your daytime newscast tomorrow at noon, Winnipeg time. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.